I have a habit that drives my wife crazy. I drive my car until the fuel gauge is down to the E, the empty mark. I know I could stop at a gas station and fill up at any time, but it's just a habit of mine. Perhaps a habit that's not so great for the marital front. I think it derives from my childhood when gas was 25 cents a gallon and my parents would take $2 and put 8 gallons of gas in the car and drive it all the way down to the fumes. And I do the same thing. Well, I have to admit this, in all these years, I've never once run out of gas. I think it's either luck or my scientific calibration has enabled me to determine to the precise amount of gas that I can drive on. You know, I think it's just luck. Well, my procrastination concerning my fuel consumption is just a microcosm of what our nation is facing. Depending on who you talk to, we're either rapidly running out of energy to fuel our factories, vehicles, and infrastructure, or there's plenty of oil to be found if we're willing to drill in fragile eco zones. Well, it seems that our nation's leaders are very reticent in addressing the sustainability of our future fuel consumption. One scientist likened it to the Western world sitting in a bathtub with the water filled to the brim, and then India climbs in with us, and China too, and someone turns the shower on. Inevitably, there'll be a mess all over the bathroom floor. Some years ago, after 9/11, the writer Thomas Friedman wrote that he had wished that President Bush had instituted a patriot tax of $1 on every gallon of gas. And that patriot tax would go to build our infrastructure and to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. I think our great-grandchildren might thank us for not turning their globe into a sauna or New York State into a tropical rainforest. Well, on this morning, believe it or not, I'm thinking about a wedding and how that fits in with oil. You're going to be interested to hear. I always wonder that weddings are a personal storm of family and social disturbance. You never know what's going to happen. The bride is going to melt down. The groom is going to drink too much. The pastor is going to screw up the names. Oh yeah, I did that. It was an Italian wedding with extras from the film The Godfather. The bride's name was something Sicilian, and although I practiced it when the time came, well, I didn't do such a good job with my pronunciation. Every aunt and distant cousin in the wedding corrected me. I stopped, took a deep breath, and shrugged my shoulders and said, well, I am from Kentucky. Well, in this story, the problem is the wedding doesn't start on time, but what weddings do start on time? There are some bridesmaids who are prepared for the delay. They have lamps that need to be filled with oil, and they brought extra oil with them. But some others, they didn't quite prepare. And so when the delay comes and comes and comes and day turns into night, they need oil for their lamps, and they have to go out and buy it. In the meantime, the wedding starts, the doors closed and are locked. They pound on the door, let us in. Sorry, it's too late. You weren't prepared, you missed it. Well, being prepared sounds like something that Boy Scouts do, but having extra oil, having the energy and enthusiasm for life is something that all of us struggle with. Our marriages and relationships can easily burn out. Work and the grind of commuting can easily burn us out. Caring for our families, laundry and cooking and loving and listening and being a shoulder to cry on, all those things can burn us out. And without realizing it, we come to the point where we're just running on fumes, and someone taps us on the shoulder and says, you're out of gas. And like a 9-month-old baby who has stayed up too late, we just crash. Well, maybe you remember some years ago that Neil Young sang a song, said, it's better to burn out than to fade away. It was his Rust Never Sleeps album. I don't think he could imagine that someone would use those words in a suicide note. But that's just what happened. 25 years ago, the front man for Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, took his own life. And he wrote about how the stress of his life was just burning him out, how his life was spiraling out of control. You know, the oil that we want and the oil that we need, we can't get it from other people. We have to find it for ourselves. We can't look at someone's parenting skills and say, yeah, give me a gallon of that. And we can't see someone's successful relationship and say, yeah, that's what I want. And we can't look at someone's passion for God or their enthusiasm for life and say, yeah, that's what I need. We don't get what we need from other people. Those physical and mental and emotional and even spiritual reserves we have to find for ourselves. And that can be a difficult thing to do, because not only do we need oil to live on, we need some extra to carry around with us in case of emergency. Well, maybe you're a little burned out on politics this week, but there was a story that John F. Kennedy used to tell when he was campaigning in 1960. In fact, he almost ended every of his campaign speeches with this story. It happened in 1789, and the Connecticut state legislators were meeting in Hartford, Connecticut. As they gathered, an ominous storm arose in the sky. The clouds were blacker than anyone had ever seen before. A great wind and storm arose, and to be quite honest, those Connecticut legislators were a little unnerved. Some of them called for an immediate adjournment. But there was one man, Colonel Davenport, who stood up and said, "This may be the day of judgment, or it may not be the day of judgment. If it's not the day of judgment, then we don't need to adjourn. But if it is the day of judgment, I wish to be found doing my duty. Therefore, let candles be brought." Someday, you and I are going to run out of our oil. We're going to run out of our energy and enthusiasm, and we're going to need to fill up. And it won't come from our 401k, and it won't come from any resources that we can summon on our own willpower. We're going to need strength to meet the ups and downs of life, to meet the pandemics and the presidential elections and the economic downturns and whatever else 2020 has to throw at us. Is it the end of the world? No, I don't think so. But just in case, put a little extra oil in your tank this week.